Right here, Burn. Right here. Okay, Jerry, these were high. I saw you pull them down. They're going to be up here. I'm going to let everything go in here, okay? Mouthpiece. Mouthpiece. I gave you both instructions. I want to remind you to listen and obey my commands at all times. Protect yourself at all times. Fight hard, fight clean. Good luck to both of you.
Bernard Hopkins is trying to do something that's never been done. He is favored here, but he's almost 52. And Joe Smith is a real fighter, who, by the way, for his part said about this fight, Joe Smith did, I'm just a regular guy fighting for a better life.
In Hopkins' last fight 25 months ago, he was swamped by Sergey Kovalev, the Russian star of the light heavyweight division. And in that fight, Hopkins was able to unleash only 16 punches per round. Kovalev was trained by John David Jackson, who was once an assistant trainer in the Hopkins camp. And for this fight, somewhat counterintuitively, because a lot of people expected to see Hopkins' longtime trainer Nassim Richardson, he instead chose for John David Jackson to train him for the fight. So John David Jackson is the lead man in Hopkins' corner tonight, just as he was the lead man in Kovalev's corner when Kovalev was decisioning Hopkins in November of 2014.
Steve Smith is a tall, rangy guy who can punch, Roy.
Yeah, but right away you see the difference is that when Kovalev fought Hopkins, you saw Kovalev use his jab to establish that distance right away. He also cut the ring off and did things that were totally different from what you see Joe Smith doing here. So Joe Smith is following Hopkins around, which you don't want to do. He's trying to knock Hopkins out with every shot, and Hopkins will just play this game till it gets late, and then he'll come up and start to take over. But
if Joe Smith wants to slug instead of box, that should play into Hopkins' hands.
That's going to play into Hopkins' hands. That's what Hopkins wants him to do.
You can even see from Hopkins is in amazing shape for anyone, especially an almost 52-year-old. But you can see the definition in his body is different than it used to be.
Of course.
He has the physique of an older guy now, though it's in as good a shape as a man his age could possibly be in, I'm sure.
And Joe is not smart by not using his jab. He's taller than Hopkins. He's longer than Hopkins. You have to make Hopkins work all night, but you have to use your jab.
He's already circling Hopkins as though he's a southpaw, moving away from that right hand.
And he looks like he's more tired or more fatigued than Hopkins is already.
Hopkins taking little baby steps around the ring.
Of course, smart baby steps. Oh, that might have hurt Hopkins.
Yeah, that right hand up on the temple seemed to wobble Hopkins just for a moment. Yeah. And there's a left hook that landed on the chin. So Bernard is being tested now. With less than a minute to go in round one.
There's a reason you've never seen a 50-year-old win a fight at this level. Hopkins has fought as a 50-year-old, but he didn't win against Kovalev.
Good body shot by Joe Smith.
That would be a smart move by Smith, is to go to the body for a while.
Of course, if you see a guy's older and struggling, you have to go to his body. But he's strictly trying to headhunt, which is what Hopkins wants him to do.
And there's Bernard Hopkins' eldest daughter, Latrice Hopkins, who will be enrolling at New York University in Manhattan in the fall. And that means, Max Kellerman, that she's going to be a neighbor of both yours and mine. And we're hoping to take her to dinner, of course, to honor her while we're there and while she's there.
You come up the gate trying to bomb me out. That's what you want. Stay relaxed and be smart. Make those rolls and touch that body for me. All right? But don't let it make you move faster than you want to move. You go at your pace. That way you don't burn yourself out.
Here you see the little short overhand left inside that shows us that Smith does have heavy hands. He knocked out from far. That shot really hurt Bernard Hopkins, as you saw his legs wobbling a little bit right there.
And there's Joe Smith's mother, Marie Smith, at ringside. Round two begins.
Hopkins was dropped against Pascal, his title effort, and righted the ship. But it's bad news when early in a fight a guy who's normally not taking shots is wobbled by a shot to the top of his head.
Yeah, but the only fight that I've seen that he didn't come back in after being knocked down was the Kovalev fight. Every other fight that he got knocked down in, he came back and won it. So getting knocked down maybe, or getting hurt even, staggered, may have been a good sign for him.
In the Kovalev fight, he was pushing 50. Now he's pushing 52. And there has to be an effect.
Yeah, those years are not the same as the difference between 30 and 32. It gets exponentially worse past a certain age. The reflexes, the speed, the strength. You see Hopkins' offense really has been not much so far.
Well, in the first round, we were talking early about how Smith was using the wrong plan and wasn't really doing the right things, and yet ultimately he landed 14 punches by CompuBox count to only 4 for Hopkins in the round. If Bernard is going to win the fight, as a lot of people have picked him to do, he has to land some punches.
And Joe has already ran into one of those headbutts, so he has a cut on his head, I think, or a bruise over his left eye, which is from a headbutt the referee just called. So that's the first thing.
Jack Reese is too good a referee to just miss the headbutts, as we've seen sometimes in Bernard's career.
Yes.
Or he should be anyway. Good body shot by Joe Smith.
Joe Smith is finding Bernard too easy to hit this early in the fight.
Oh, good body shot by Joe.
Solid shot to the flank.
Yes, that was a good shot.
And credit Joe Smith, by the way, who, as we mentioned, earned this shot by knocking out a tough fighter in one round and is here having his way with Bernard Hopkins.
But that cut is bleeding now.
Yep, yeah, Joe Smith bleeding from what Roy Jones says was a headbutt. And
that's
we'll
why,
see.
And that's why you have to keep your distance from Hopkins early in the fight. You can't get close to him early.
And there's that straight right hand counterpunch, which has always been his best weapon.
Right to where the cut is.
He knows his game, doesn't he?
He does know it, son. He's what you call a true professional. Now he has Joe Smith worried about that right hand.
Roy, if this becomes a protracted kind of battle, you think at some point Bernard wonders, what am I doing here at this age?
No, he doesn't. He knows what he's doing in there at that age. He's a very calculative guy. He calculates everything that he does. The one thing
and if he means it, there are only 10 rounds left in his career.
Joey, listen. It's a cut. You knew this was going to happen, right? He's a dirty fuck. Listen. Angle that shoulder out front. All right? Don't walk to his right hand. You got to move the other way. Keep that left hand up. All right? Bend those knees. Move your head. Don't be straight up. You're walking him down, man. You're going right into his trap. All right? Accidental butt. Accidental.
This is what the young guy didn't know was coming by staying close to Bernard Hopkins. Bing, right there, that big head right on your eyebrow. I mean, how can you survive that? Now you have a cut that's gonna bleed in your eye for the rest of the night.
So that's what's amusing about Jack Reese coming to the corner and saying that was an accidental headbutt.
Yeah, it was accidental.
It wasn't anywhere near accidental. It was meant to look accidental. And apparently he got away with that.
The good headbutters, and Hopkins has been one of them, have always done it in such a way that, look, here comes my head. If your face happens to be there, can't blame me.
Evander Holyfield?
Holyfield's another.
Good
uppercut by Smith, yeah. Excellent punch.
But see, the difference you see in a fight like this is you saw experience there. He knew the uppercut was going to land, but he didn't rush it like you saw Alexander Usyk rush his earlier. That's the experience factor. Good hook.
Hopkins lands another right hand.
Yeah, what's been amazing about Bernard through the years is big punchers you can understand having long careers, Archie Moore, George Foreman, because the punches is the last thing to leave you. But Bernard was a good puncher at middleweight once upon a time, but that was like 2 decades ago practically. For him to be competing at this age without that kind of punch is just extraordinary.
Good body shot too by Bernard.
having his best offensive round so far this
Yes, he is. You know he's going to wait, let Joe tire himself down a little bit, then he'll start to peck at him slowly. He said that at the press conference. I mean, at the fighter meeting. But also, Joe said something very profound to me. He said that he knows Hopkins sees something in him, and he doesn't know what it is, but he knows that Hopkins sees something in him that he thinks he can exploit.
Or he wouldn't have chosen him as an opponent.
Exactly.
Don't be pulling up on his
Good
head.
call.
Let each other go.
Meanwhile, we're watching that cut just inside the left eyebrow of Joe Smith. And you probably noticed in the corner between rounds that he has one of the very best cut men in boxing, the very experienced Jacob Stitch Duran, watching that cut for him. And it has not bled in this round. So Duran did a good job between rounds getting the bleeding stopped on the headbutt cut.
But what happens is, for Bernard, it's an experience thing, because now he knows this probably is the first time Joe Smith ever dealt with being cut. He's a little nervous. He's not sure of himself. He doesn't know what's going to happen with the blood, and Bernard making him feel real uncomfortable by getting that cut.
And moving, Bernard is counterclockwise like a southpaw to take the sting out of Joe Smith's right hand.
And as Hopkins begins to figure Smith out even more, the Joe Smith who landed 14 power punches in round 1 has landed 4 power punches in round 3. So already Bernard is finding ways to limit Joe Smith's contact on his body. December 27, it's the premiere of Boxing's Best of 2016. Spend your holiday reliving the sport's biggest stars taking part in some of the best and most significant fights of this year. Canelo, GGG, Chocolatito. Meanwhile, Wednesday, December 28th, it's the year-end edition of my show, The Fight Game. We review the year in the ring and hand out our annual awards, including Fight and Fighter of the Year. Stitch Duran doing his work on the cut.
Come on, man. We got to stop him. All right? We got to stop him. All right? Keep that jab up. Listen, keep the count up, all right?
Joe Smith's trainer is Jerry Capobianco, providing last instructions before Smith goes into the ring for round number 4. Round 4 of a scheduled 12. Let's check in with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman. Harold, how did he have the first 3?
Okay, sir. I got a 3-0, 30-27, Joe Smith Jr. You know, Jim, Joe Smith Jr., I've seen virtually every one of his fights because I live in New York. And I got to tell you, he's a power puncher. That's all he knows how to do. He don't box real well. He knows how to come forward, and he knows how to throw a vicious straight right hand. I mean, the guy has always been a power puncher. That's why he's knocked out most of his opponents. I mean, he hits very hard. He's a big guy with a lot of power. And so far, he's coming forward. He's taking a fight to Hopkins. Bernard doing a lot of running, doing a lot of tying up Joe Smith. You know, he's holding, tying him up, trying like heck to not get hit by one of those power shots. But in the meantime, Smith winning the fight. 3-0, Joe Smith Jr.
The thing about being a power puncher is you got to figure out a way to land those punches, and Joe Smith's done that throughout his career so far. It's why Hopkins is willing to move frequently counterclockwise away from the right hand. He's willing to risk running into a left hook because the right hand is what he's worried about.
Hopkins just landed a good right hand of his own. And this is what Hopkins wants to do. Move around, make you think he's running from you, and then sneak and steal you with a good shot.
And throw that right hand straight and inside the wider punches of Joe Smith.
Left hook to the body by Smith. And he gets in a left upstairs. Hopkins lands his own left hook.
Stop it, both of you.
And you're chuckling, Roy.
Yeah, because it's just so funny to watch the way that Hopkins does it. You know, he makes these guys start to fight at his pace, puts them to sleep, then he unloads on them. And it's so funny to watch him do it because you see it right before your eyes. You know what's happening. You see the young guys go for it, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 there comes Hopkins.
It is amazing, too. I talked about it a little bit before, but
Left hook.
Like that.
Good right hand.
Right hand.
Like that.
But every year at this age must be like 5 years to a younger guy It wasn't that long ago where Hopkins was having his way easily with Tavares Cloud, seemingly with much less effort and peril than he's facing tonight.
Harold Letterman unofficially has given the first 3 rounds of the fight to Joe Smith. Here now is a round that Hopkins appears to be winning as we come down the stretch.
They've won the 3rd also.
Harold doesn't believe he won the 3rd, I don't think.
No, no.
I thought that was a competitive round.
This round is a Hopkins round, and becoming even more so as we go along.
Let him go with your right hand. Let your right hand off his elbow.
Roy, I feel like Hopkins found something in this round. Some kind of rhythm.
He did. He found something because he knows now that he has him fighting the pace that he wants him to fight.
Good round. Good round. Deep breath. The more that you walking at your pace, you take your time. He's not so eager to come in now. Deep breath, deep breath. Yeah, put down his head for me. You do what you want to do. You put in your shot like that. Give me a couple more body shots. One on back.
He sees Joe Smith land a partial right hand. Bernard kind of went with the punch, so it wasn't that devastating. But right here, you see Bernard Hopkins comes and land a partial right hand. And it's more effective because Joe Smith is right there. So his right hand had much more effect on Joe Smith than Joe Smith's right hand had on him.
Hold it up. Larry, you gotta move it, man. You gotta move it. Bernard, turn around. Let's go, box.
Jam, Joey, shoulder first.
Right here you see Joe following Bernard around the ring. Not the smart thing to do. You have to learn to cut the ring off. Now Bernard feeling real comfortable because he knows he has him following him. Good shot.
Hard right hand by Bernard Hopkins.
Yes.
And another. He's starting to find Smith more often with both the left hook and the straight right hand.
Yeah, Bernard started schooling him a little bit last round with that straight right hand. But he's got to be careful because Smith wants those kind of exchanges. That's a big left hook to the body by Smith.
Yeah, it was a really good left hand to the body.
Keep going, Bern.
If Smith can really hurt Hopkins with the left hand, it'd be very tough for Bernard because Bernard's banking on his ability to absorb that shot.
Body shots are where the money is for Smith. How could that not be the case? You're fighting a 52-year-old man. Hammer his ribs.
You got banged in the head. Why would you put your head in there? You know
exactly.
Your head, but already you're going to stick your head in there for him? Are you crazy?
Hopkins is dialing in the straight right hand.
It's really a beautiful thing to watch.
It's just amazing.
All right, stop. My break. Step away from each other.
Hands up, Joey. Shoulder first. And you're right. You're right. Attaboy.
This is a big round because it seemed fairly clear. You know, Bernard probably lost the first 3 and definitely won the 4th.
Good right hand.
In this round, he's back in the fight. Good left hook to the body.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's even on the cards right now.
And he's better in the later rounds than Joe Smith is for sure.
Left hook by Hopkins. Momentarily backs Smith up. Good body shots again by Joe Smith.
Oh, big right hand by Joe Smith.
Hopkins grabs him and holds on.
But he took that shot good, Jim. Took it much better than he took it earlier.
Probably took it better than any other 51-year-old man would.
Sure.
Took it better than Fanfara.
Yeah. Good jab by Joe Smith.
Competitive round, meaningful round. Hopkins going to the body and holding on to Smith's right arm.
Stop. My break.
Crowd is chanting Hopkins.
Stop punching.
Hopkins showing off his footwork to getting one last combination at the end of round number 5.
Listen, Joey. Joey, don't get lazy, man. Don't get sloppy, all right? All right? Listen to me. Take a breath. Don't get sloppy. Don't get too relaxed. All right? Keep that left hand up. Put your shoulder out front. You're winning this fight. You're beating the shit out of Bernard Hopkins.
Watch the holder from both sides. Both sides. I got it.
Here you see Hopkins land a beautiful straight right off the rope, right over the top of Joe Smith's jab, which was a good shot. But in this round, followed by a headbutt by Joe Smith. But in this round, Joe Smith landed the better overhand right. That right hand was much better than the shot that Hopkins hit Joe Smith with. But the problem is,
minute to go in the round, it was a pretty good round for Hopkins, but Smith dominated the last minute of the round.
Yes, but in the first round, that overhand right may have dropped Hopkins. In this round, it didn't.
Because Hopkins is warm?
He's warm, and Smith has tired a little bit.
But we're 5 rounds into a scheduled 12. It looks as though Bernard is probably behind on the scorecard.
And it's actually Smith who's done the better body work in this fight.
Investing well for the future.
But he won't cut the ring off. He has to learn to cut the ring off.
You know, not that it's exactly the same, but when, you know, Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis were no longer themselves, they had some success. Ali in their last fights, Ali in his fight with Trevor Berbick, and Joe Louis in his fight with Rocky Marciano. Obviously, Joe Smith is not Rocky Marciano, but they had some success early in the fight at times with their jab, with some defense, with some kind of harmless offense. But they just weren't the same guy anymore, and there was no sting in their punches, and the younger, stronger guy eventually was too much for them.
Joe Smith's trainer is Jerry Capabianco. He's mic'd up. Let's listen to him.
Bring him up! Bring him up!
All right, stop. Everybody stop. Back off him. Go, let him go.
Bring him up, Joey! Bring him up! Don't get relaxed! Stay focused, Joey! Come on, we got another half! Stay focused, baby! Hands up! Move your head! Jam! 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 Right here! Stay focused, Joey! Jam! Jam! Hook after it! Hook after it! Hands up! Let go! Body! 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 Let go! Body! Go! Jam! Jam! Hands up! Go! Up! Hands up!
And we come back to ringside, and Joe Smith is loading up on every punch in this round.
The wrong thing for him to do, Jim. It's taking a lot out of him to do that. It's giving Hopkins much more chances, by much more of a chance by doing that.
But I also think that it's not unwise to impose his youth and his strength and his size on Hopkins, who doesn't seem to be able to discourage Smith really with the snap on his punches.
No, he's not, but see that right there?
Yep, that was a good shot.
That's what's going to cause him. When he gets tired, that's what's going to cause him to start to bend because of the fatigue and the straight punches right on the chin.
Bernard probably can't hurt Joe Smith, but he can still time him if Smith makes it possible for Bernard to time him. And there's Joe Smith's mom. And now Jacob Stitch-Duran goes back to work on the eyebrow.
Trying to take you deep. He's gonna come on now. All right? Deep breaths. You ain't even windy. Good. Joe, he's looking to try to take you deep, man. Stay busy. Don't play his bullshit. All right? You're beating every round. You lost one round. 7. All right? 7th round.
Very good work. All you do is follow him around the ring, Bernard.
Right here you see Bernard Hopkins being very smart, landing a beautiful left uppercut right there. Just little pop shots, just to let him know I still got you, so you got to watch yourself. Then later in the round, he came with this little overhand right high on the head, but just to let him know that I'm still here, I'm still alive, and you still have to be careful while you're in front of me.
7.
Halfway through the 12-round fight, we enter round 7. Bernard Hopkins against Joe Smith. Harold, How do you have it scored through 6?
Okay, Jim. I've got it 5 rounds to 1. 59-55, Joe Smith Jr. You know, Jim, he's the aggressor the entire fight. Landed that big right hand because that's all he does. Throws those hard left hooks and that huge right hand. Bernard shows me an amazing ability to take a punch, but you can't win a fight, you know, on taking a good punch. Bernard's just not landing enough. He really should let his hands go more and throw more shots. But he spends a lot of time backing up, trying to avoid Joe Smith's big right hand. Hit like that. 5-1, Joe Smith Jr.
Harold, you say you've witnessed a lot of Joe Smith's fights.
Oh yeah, a lot of them, Jim.
Let me just explain what that means to the viewing audience, Harold, because
you know, Jim,
you live in upstate New York. Right. He's pretty far out on Long Island, and that's not a small drive, Harold. I mean, you are putting out hundreds of miles of driving to go see Joe Smith fight.
Oh yeah, more than once, I gotta tell you. You know, Joe always fights the same way. The entire fight he puts pressure on you. The entire fight he throws hard shots. He doesn't box, Jim. He looks to get you out of there in each and every round. There's no doubt about it. The guy's what you gotta call a pure power puncher. He just looks to take you out.
And all of that describes, once again, just to make a point we made through the evening, those are the reasons Bernard Hopkins chose him as the opponent for the fight.
Because he didn't want just an ordinary Joe. He wanted Joe Smith Jr.
Just to remind people, again, it wasn't that long ago, Tavares Cloud, Shumanov, these are world-class, aggressive fighters, and Hopkins just took those guys to school and won those fights on points. And here Joe Smith, a guy considered not quite on that level, although he did knock out Fonfara, maybe he is. And Hopkins unable just a year or two later to win those rounds.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the time off, Max. When you get older in age, you need to do it more often and stay in the ring more often. And I think this has been one of his longest inactive periods since coming over the fight. So that's what we're seeing the effects of right now.
Yeah, people always tell me that Father Time is undefeated, and I'm always careful to point out, yeah, but with one draw against Bernard Hopkins. But maybe Father Time has finally caught him too.
Yeah, but all depends on if
boxing well here.
If this kid can take advantage of Father Time. Because if the kid can't take advantage of it, then it still doesn't matter.
Kid's doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, but he's fighting just like Bernard right now, throwing little bitty kitty pat punches. That does you no good against the great Bernard Hopkins. You're 27. You shouldn't have to pity pat with him, and you shouldn't have to do what he does.
Stop.
We'll kick off the new year in the ring on January 28th with a Boxing After Dark doubleheader featuring Francisco Vargas defending his 130-pound title against Miguel Berchelt. On that same card, Takashi Miura, Vargas' dance partner in the 2015 Fight of the Year, faces Mickey Roman. Vargas' fight with Orlando Salido, which took place on June 4 this year, 2016, is a likely choice in many quarters for Fight of the Year 2016.
Keep walking around that ring, folks. Keep walking around that ring.
The very calm John David Jackson tells Bernard Hopkins in his corner, keep walking around the ring. Power punches through round 8. Hopkins has landed 54. Smith has landed 81. Bernard Hopkins and I were in London in September to cover Gennady Golovkin against Kell Brook. And on the morning of that fight, Hopkins walked into our hotel in London to eat breakfast and ran into Dan Rafael of ESPN and sat down to have breakfast with Rafael. And their discussion centered on the question of who was it that Bernard could fight in his last fight. And Rafael suggested to Hopkins 2 possible opponents.
Oh, big right hand.
He's out. Oh, out the ring. Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh.
That's
Joe
crazy.
Smith,
Yeah,
who Dan Rafael suggested as an opponent, has just knocked Bernard Hopkins out of the ring. Out of the ring.
He should have 20 seconds to get back in. If he can get back in 20 seconds, he's not knocked out. And I don't think he's aware of that.
And he's being assisted. He's being assisted by a lot of people at ringside.
He's out on his feet.
That should disqualify him.
He's out on his feet, though.
And it's over. It's over, and it's going to be a knockout victory for Joe Smith.
Bernard Hopkins got knocked out of the ring almost exactly as Joe Louis did against Rocky Marciano in his last fight.
Harold, I'm saying this is over. Is it over?
Jim, it should be over. If you get knocked out of the ring, you got 20 seconds to get back into the ring. Bernard Hopkins didn't do it. It should be over.
All night long, Joe Smith was flirting with landing something huge. And that time, he landed something huge.
And it's a huge win for Joe Smith. And it's still an extraordinary thing to see Bernard Hopkins push himself to beyond the limits of where anyone else has gone in terms of what he was able to achieve at a late age in his career. But there is an end point.
You lose, getting tired. You lose, getting tired. It's throbbing. Yeah, it's throbbing. I know why it's crazy. So you push him out the ring, look at the tape. I don't know. You got to take it off, let me see it, put ice on it. And you walk. I feel it tingling when I walk. Let's go back in the ring. I feel it tingling. I can go back in there, but I don't know if I can stand in there.
Oh, dude, we'll put a stool in there. We'll put a stool in there, and you can sit down, okay? Hold on, hold on. Hey, get me a stool.
Let's get a stand up. This is my right leg.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I got you. Okay, get it. Leave it inside. Leave it inside. Leave it inside.
The man to whom Hopkins is speaking there is supervising ring position, Dr. Paul Wallace.
I can walk, but I can't move with it. I can walk.
This is reminiscent of what happened when Hopkins last fought in Los Angeles against Chad Dawson and wound up exiting that fight with an injury. But at that point, he was still in the ring. Here's another look at what happened. Joe Smith lands a left hook, another left hook, and then a big punch.
Was a big punch, Joe. Was a
Hopkins through the ropes.
That one hurt him.
Yeah, the right hand was huge.
Yeah, that one finished it. And that was a big punch through the ropes.
He landed on his head.
That's what
pretty
hurt.
Remarkable that he's still conscious.
Yes, that's what hurt.
Better look from this angle. Right hand was huge. Another left hook. Another left hook. Through the ropes onto his head.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
So the official 20 count did take place. Joe Smith's mother celebrates her son's knockout victory. And what a credential for the record of the young heavyweight from Long Island, who is still a construction worker member of Construction Workers Local Union 66 in Melville, New York.
The light heavyweight. But he's no more an ordinary Joe.
That's right. No more ordinary Joe. Did I say heavyweight?
Yeah, you said heavyweight.
I was giving him too much credit. And ring announcer Joe Martinez stands by now with the official particulars on the knockout.
Ladies and gentlemen, 53 seconds into round number 8. Hopkins sustained an injury due to a legal blow. He fell out of the ring and suffered an injury. Therefore, we declare your winner by TKO victory. He is still WBC International Light Heavyweight Champion, the Beast, Joe Smith Jr.
So Joe Smith Jr. gets it done. A technical knockout victory over Bernard Hopkins. That exceeds what Sergey Kovalev was able to accomplish against Hopkins. Of course, it's 2 years later down the road. Final CompuBox numbers. Smith landed 32 more punches, threw 220 more punches. Didn't land as at high a connect percentage, but that wasn't what he was trying to do. He was trying to knock Hopkins out, and he got it done. Total power punches landed, and the last 3 or 4 really made the difference as Joe Smith Jr., with his 23rd ring victory against only 1 defeat, now has a major credential in the light heavyweight division. Max Kellerman stands by with the winner.
Joe Smith, congratulations. You've become the first man to knock Bernard Hopkins out. That's what you said you set out to do. How does it feel right now?
It feels great. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world to accomplish something that I worked hard for and wanted to do.
I mentioned ringside that the last fight of Joe Louis's career is knocked out of the ring and stopped by Rocky Marciano. Let's take a look at what happened. Describe it to me. What do you see, Joe?
Well, I seen he kept, you know, every time I threw the right hand, I seen him dropping his left. So I paused my jab out there for a second, and I threw the right hand, and I landed it and hurt him, and I seen him falling, and I kept hitting him until, you know, I seen he was going out, and I landed that left hook at the end there, to, you know, to finish the job.
Were you aware that he had 20 seconds to get back in the ring? That's the rule in boxing. A lot of people are unaware. It seemed maybe that Bernard didn't know. Were you aware he had 20 seconds to get back in?
Yeah, I knew he had time, but man, I hit him with 4 or 5 clean shots there, and they were, you know, good shots right on the button. And you know, I didn't expect him to get up, but you know, he's a true champion, and I knew, you know, if he didn't get injured, he would be back in here to put on a great show for everybody here.
I imagine it's a tough spot for you to be in. You said you're a regular guy fighting for a better life, and here you come in, you get the job done, you knock out Bernard Hopkins and do what you tried to do, but you heard before a smattering of boos because you ruined the party for Hopkins and the Hopkins fans. What does that feel like right now?
I mean, you know, I came here to do my job. This is, you know, this was my coming out party too. You know, I had to finish him. I mean, it was either my career was going to end and his career was going to end, but I needed mine to continue. So,
speaking of which, what's next for you?
I don't know. Anybody they got for me, you know, I'm up for anything. You know, I'm going to get back in the gym, continue working hard, and you know, I'm very excited that I got to fight. You know, I'm lost for words. You know, I'm excited I did what I wanted to do. You know.
We've talked about, and there's been some talk about you and Shawnee Monahan in an all Long Island Irish-American showdown that would play big in that neck of the woods. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm with it. I'm up for anything. You know, that everybody here would love to see that fight, and everyone back home would really love to see it.
Congratulations, Joe, on a spectacular win. You did something that no one else has been able to do.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans, friends, and family that are out here. My girlfriend here, Kelly, my father home watching, and all my Long Island fans. Thank you for watching, and I'm bringing the title home, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Max Kellerman. Roy Jones here at ringside. We've spent a lot of time covering the great career of Bernard Hopkins and heaping glory on him for everything he's done. That's over with. The new subject is Joe Smith Jr. and his position in the light heavyweight division.
Yeah, he has a good position in the light heavyweight division. However, Jim, the Monahan fight is the better fight for him. He and Monahan are probably equally yoked as far as experience goes. You don't want to move him up the ladder too quickly. The only reason he's able to go in the ring with a guy with the experience of a Bernard Hopkins is because Bernard Hopkins is 51 years old. Let's not forget how miraculous that is. So just because he beat Bernard Hopkins does not mean anything as far as the light heavyweight division goes. He's still a lower tier opponent until he gets some more experience. Once he gets more experience, then we want to see what he grows out or what he turns out to be. He's only 27, has plenty of time to learn the game.
In other words, if you put this Joe Smith Jr. in the ring against an Andre Ward or a Sergey Kovalev, he'd be outgunned by the skill level.
Right now he will because of the experience and the skill level. However, he does have time to catch up with that now. Now he can go home, let the job go, focus more of his time in the boxing gym. Then he can become a real fighter, because now having a victory over Bernard Hopkins should inspire him and his camp to get back in the gym and let the job go for a minute. Let's see how far you can go. He landed 3 or 4 really good punches on the great Bernard Hopkins, something that some of those other fighters we're talking about were not able to do. Now, I must admit, and I got to say the same thing for the little cat that fought Lomachenko last, Nicholas. That time off hurts. The older you get, the more that time off hurts. This was probably the longest inactivity period that Bernard has had.
25 months.
And this is why we saw such a decline in Bernard Hopkins tonight as opposed to what we saw before. Nicholas Walters went through the same thing. 11 months off before fighting Lomachenko says a lot. So I don't think it would have made a whole lot of difference, but it's still not fair to give a man an assessment after being off for so long.
He chose to fight somebody with extraordinary power. We saw it as early as the first round. Joe Smith can really crack. The last man he cracked was Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard is in the dressing room to talk to our Max Kellerman right now.
Bernard, thank you for talking under difficult circumstances. What just happened?
Hey Max, I think I was throwing a right hand or a combination, and then using the rope as an offensive defense like I'm known for. And I made him miss, and I think I believe I was frustrating him up to that round with a couple of just making him miss and touching him to the body. And every now and then he gets an overhand right in, which was only big punch. And he got frustrated, Max. He got frustrated, and when we got in the clinch, and I might have got hit with a glazed right hand or a left hook, and going through the momentum, next thing I know, he shoved me out of the ring, and I tried to grab it on the way out, and I went straight through the wrap, and I believe I hit my head, but I didn't go out. But I hit my head first, and my ankle got hit when I hit the ground, a twist. The doctor said it's swollen on the right side of my ankle on the right-hand side.
Were you aware?
Put the ice on the other side, y'all. I got the ice on the left side. Put it on the outside right.
Were you aware that...
Right there.
Were you aware that you had 20 seconds to get back in the ring by rule once you were out of the ring?
Yeah, but I couldn't I couldn't stand up on my feet. But nobody said 20 seconds and like that. They said, can you go? Can you continue? And he said, is your ankle all right? And I said, no. And he said, all right. And he said, okay, what you want to do? And I said, let's go back. And he said, all right, can you walk? I said, yeah, but I can't box on it because my leg is thriving. I felt it doing this, like a bad toothache.
You've been able...
It was like, you know, when you get hit with a low blow, you got, I guess, you know, you said 20 seconds or whatever to get in the ring. But, you know, I had a choice to make, and I guess the referee, you know, wanted to make the choice for me. But I know for a fact that if I wouldn't have got pushed out of that ring after I made a miss, the second half of the fight, when I'm known for coming back, I'm known for, not that I was down multiple rounds, but I believe that he was starting to fade out. And I was starting to come on strong and making him miss, and that was taking a toll on him because he's a big swinger. And I know that it's going to be dangerous early in a fight, and I know that I had a chin that can hold up to anybody's punch, as you've seen. And he got frustrated. It reminded me of the Robert Allen fight when I was starting to get my boxing lesson. I was making him miss and frustrating him. And next thing you know, I'm out, pushed out of the ring where Mills Lane was refereeing the fight, like the famous Mills Lane. So that's, to me, like a deja vu, where at least I had a chance to go ahead and redeem that.
So you know, the replay doesn't show that you were pushed out, but it shows that you've kind of fell out. I think his forearm was on you, but it wasn't like a blatant, he pushed you out. It looked like you got caught with something and you slipped through the ropes. You seem very...
The momentum of both things, the momentum of what you said and the momentum of me backing up against towards the rope.
You seem very, like, we've seen you lose to Kovalev. You didn't seem as upset as this. And when I came in, I overheard you say into this locker room right now, I overheard you say, I can't believe they're going to give him a TKO. It seems that that is bothering you right now, the fact that that goes down on your record as a stoppage loss.
But the reason I said that is because I'm really still in shock. Like, y'all, they're going to give him the fight, knowing that if the replay showed that even if his elbow touched me and he's throwing a punch and he's leaning on me, then I went through the ropes. I didn't dive through the ropes. You see, the momentum took me through the ropes. And I think I hit my head. Everybody see they heard a thump that hit my head, but I was more or less worrying about my ankle than my head until I realized later seconds that I did hit my head. But no, Max, I wasn't going to holler and scream and jump and say, oh, and, you know, and all this stuff like that, because to me, I believe everybody seen what was going on, and maybe I get a chance to go ahead and see if I could fight on it, which I couldn't, or see what the referee was going to do. But that's why I was more, even if they would have called it a no contest, even if they would have called it, you know, whatever, but not a loss, because I don't think that it was warranted like that. Maybe, you know, maybe you say the rules after 4 rounds, after 5 rounds, but this was definitely a momentum pushing me from his body, forearm or shoulder or punch, within the forearm.
Look, Bernard,
it's definitely to me, and I don't know what everybody else seen, but I know I was leaning on the ropes and he threw a punch and it sort of glazed, and I backed up on the ropes. Next time I know his body is on me, and I went through the ropes.
You were attempting to do something today that no one's ever done in the history of boxing. Beat a world-class fighter who's coming off a win at the age of almost 52. That would have been a record by some measure. And this was billed as your last fight. But given it is your last fight, you will not fight again?
No. No.
Why not?
One reason is, Max, because I promised I wouldn't. And enjoying myself color commentating with your handsome face and Jim Lampley. But, you know, I think that when you come to a point in life where you know when this is final because there's nothing else to do in the game of boxing as far as making history and doing certain things, and also spending time with my daughter right here, as you told you, NYU, and then other things going on in my life, Max, and again, along with the HBO family, Golden Boy, can't forget that. I'm happy in my life of retirement. This is billed as the final one. Controversy, draw, split, whatever you want to call it, win, knockout, or less. It doesn't matter. I believe that the crowd and the fans know for a fact that I went out like a soldier, and I always fought the toughest and the baddest fighter in the era that I boxed, or even before or after, Max. So yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that, but I'm not, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, I agree, but it is what it looks like or what it is, and I know what happened. I'm not in denial.
Bernard,
Joe's a tough, strong, heavy-handed puncher. Don't have a lot of mechanics with him as far as technique and skill. Strong and, you know, come forward. But I think that, Max, knowing people know my style, knowing I'm not a fast starter, this was the rounds that I know that I was about to go ahead and make something happen.
We've covered that, and we got to get the business done, but I just want to tell you that if this is indeed your last fight, and it sounds like it is, it was a pleasure covering your career, one of the genuine all-time greats of the game, and it was an honor to cover your last fight. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Max Kellerman and Bernard Hopkins. Here's another look at what happened along the ropes. Roy Jones, I don't see a push. I see punches.
Yeah, there was no push. You can't take the credit away from Joe Smith. All of those were clean punches.